Hello traders, this is Rich from Tradesight. This is the market preview for Thursday, June 26, 2014. Had a update across the board today by most measures. The S&P was up 6 or 7 handles. NASDAQ was up about 21 or so, which is going to be the focus of what we're going to talk about today. The Dow Jones was up 32, which was a real laggard, and it got a little bit of a snapback in the Russell, popping higher today. Oil futures were higher today. The TLT was higher. Gold essentially did nothing, but what it's done is really just basically hold its ground. The advanced declines are pretty good on the New York side, plus almost 1,200 issues, but the NASDAQ side, while that was the stronger of the two, was kind of lagging here. So let's move on and take a look at the major futures contracts and see what they have to say. Here's a look at the ES. Pretty strong day, but we didn't get high enough today to qualify for that 11th bar of the Seeker exhaustion run, so we're getting close, but haven't done anything yet. Today we opened down, gapped up, and basically settled in the area of the previous day's opening. So decent price action relative to the weakness from yesterday. Note that we're back above the 10 EMA, so we never got that qualified follow through to the downside with that close following through below the 10 EMA. So we're still short-term positive actually, which is fine, and I would actually prefer to see it stay short-term positive until we get that 13 locked in, and then we'll have something to hopefully work with to the downside. But for now, the bulls have shown themselves, but they have to hold this price tomorrow. Just keep in mind that we're getting very, very close to the end of the month and the end of the quarter. That's going to kind of roll over and expire over the course of the weekend. So the setup will be for the end of the quarter, and everybody wants that high mark. So no surprise here that we had just kind of a low volume walk up to the upside. The Dow futures I want to take a look at today, still kind of weak. We did settle a second time below the 10 EMA, so now we're short-term negative again and still struggling below this 8/8 level. So this is definitely a little weaker design. We've got this high close here. We've got a potential lower high. We just need to undercut this previous low, and then we'll have a lower high in place, and then potentially some kind of a corrective phase starting. But we have to get that done first. Moving on to the NQ futures. NQs are 9 days up in the Seeker exhaustion run. Thing is that big tail that was rejected by the by sellers yesterday was partially recouped today, so that's definitely a positive. Keep in mind that if we do try and go higher, this plus 2/8 level at 38.28 is going to really come into play, and if we do settle above that, we're going to frame shift to the upside. So key support is going to remain at the 10 EMA and then the 8/8 level at 37.50. Bonds today were somewhat positive, closing higher on the day, but below the day's open. So we did jump rope this 4/8 level. The jump rope comes because we exited on a gap, but we're closing below the day's open, which is never a good sign of strength. Oil was up about 50 cents on the day, still holding above the 10 EMA on a settlement basis. So this is still short-term positive for now. This 8/8 level is a big level. To the top side, resistance is going to be at 107.81, and the support's going to be at the low of the range for the week, the 5-day range, where these tails come in at about 105.10 or so. Gold futures did almost nothing today. They did recoup some losses in the Globex session, and basically just closed back up into the flag here. So we kind of disrupted the pattern here with this big tail to the downside, but they're still holding this range expansion to the upside on the north side of the 4/8 level. All right, taking a look at our multi-sector daily chart, we're seeing a little bit of a bounce pretty much in everything today because everything was so weak the day before. Even the XAU bounced today with gold doing nothing. So the XAU bounced up, had some decent price action today, especially in the oil services. Schlumberger was just on fire today. That's pretty heavily weighted in that index, so the index did well today. Still decently below the previous high. Transports also had a good day. Note that we've got this high in this retest here. If we can take out this area here, that's going to be a really positive development for the market and for the transports in general. So keep your eyes on that. The banking index, which is the green line, was okay today. Basically, just pretty much just bouncing back from getting marked down a little bit the day before. Here's a look at the XAU, which is represented in white versus gold futures. XAU still holding up here. We had a little bit of a bounce today, so we're still leading to the upside here with the XAU. So that does kind of put a bid under gold futures themselves. So as long as this relationship continues like this, we're in pretty good shape on the long side in gold. We're going to be looking for that 15-minute opening range trade tomorrow. One little cause for concern here is the relative weakness that's starting to develop in the semiconductors. The semiconductors did provide good leadership. We got above this key break level, and that really did help the NASDAQ side of the market move up and sustain some higher prices. But we're starting to see a roll down, and we even saw some more relative weakness today. The relative weakness comes from when the SOX actually underperforms the overall NDX, and we don't want to see that on a lasting basis. But right now, that is what we're seeing. If this persists, that's going to be a real problem for the NDX, because it's very unlikely that the BTK is going to be able to pick up the slack, because the BTK is really more of an early cycle sector. So we need this to start to firm itself up, and a lot of these stocks in the semiconductors are really overdone. SanDisk is extremely extended, and a lot of the other main components are. Another thing, keep an eye on Microsoft. Microsoft looks like it's getting a little bit overdone here, and when Microsoft starts to go, that's definitely going to have a big impact on the NDX overall. And we've already seen Oracle take a pretty good hit here. Here's a look at the Microsoft chart. We've got a 13 exhaustion here, which rolled it down a little bit. Remember, Microsoft is generally a very low beta name. Walk back up here into the into new highs, but we're bumping up against the +2 ace level of Microsoft. We're 8 bars up now on the seeker startup phase. When we get to 9, we're going to start to feel some resistance, and then we're going to have some more resistance against that key +2 ace level. And one of the signs for a top in the market, and I've seen this for decades now, is that when everything else just kind of gets overdone, you really can't stand putting money into the other NASDAQ names that have already moved so far. They always come around and start to recommend Microsoft. Well, at this point, we're looking at Microsoft, and that's where we're putting our money. So if you're watching CNBC or Bloomberg TV or the whatever station of your choice is, and the talking heads come on and start recommending Microsoft, start to prepare to start lightening up, because that's usually one of the classic signs of a top. All right, so here's a look at our sectors ranked from best to worst. The drugs were the top gun today. Airlines snapped back pretty well and took off today, and that's a terrible pun. And recouped some of the losses. Oil services index was really strong, like we talked about before. A couple of components were real strong there, and the transports were at the top. So if you want to have a bounce back day, you want to see the late cycle stuff kicking in, and we did see that today. The oil services and the transports were both pretty strong, and that's definitely welcome. BTK, after yesterday being the big performer, took kind of a break, so that should be no surprise here that we're kind of looking for that today. Banking index didn't really do too much. Semiconductors again underperformed the NASDAQ, which is not what we're looking for here. A couple things to keep in mind. We're getting close to, on the oil services, we're getting close to an exhaustion warning in the Tradesight Comer, and we're kind of in that area right now in the hardware index, the HWI. We're actually 12 bars up on the seeker, so we're getting there. And the XOI is 11 bars up, so all of those things could actually wind up firing this week. I want to take a look at the DRG, which is a drug index. Broke out to a new closing high today. Note that we're 7 bars up in this startup phase, and when we get to 9 bars up here, if we're anywhere in the area of 8 ace, we're going to find some pretty good resistance. So definitely be ready for that. So this is kind of one of those things where it is trying to break out, but you're kind of late in the game here as far as the counts go. Semiconductors were higher on the day, but underperformed the overall market. They were just using the 8 ace level here as support. We've got pretty good resistance here at +1 ace level, and note that the MACD has rolled over to the downside. So when we get a close below this 8 ace level, I would think that we're going to gather some momentum to the downside here and probably wind up testing this previous breakout high. So be ready on that side when that does shape up. BKX was higher on the day, the banking index, but didn't take out the 8 ace level. So until we resolve that double top to the upside, this is still kind of in trouble here. In XOI was fairly weak today. We had that big down day yesterday. Today we had a little bit of an upward movement relative to the close, but it was still the last lagger today, and this 8/8 level is looming, and this has definitely been attracting money. And look how this has moved from the lower left to the upper right of the chart here. So this is a pretty sustained and pretty protracted move to the upside here, and this is in this down day that was yesterday was definitely the biggest down day of the entire chart here. So that's pretty notable move, and today was just kind of like a little bit of a measuring day where they really couldn't follow through to the downside because of the oversold energy that was in it on the very short term. So there's a lot of charts out there that do look like this, so please make sure that you're on top of these and ready to play follow-throughs to the downside when they release. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for Tradesight.